Okay. Yeah. Merry goddamn holidays. It is what is this? December 14th, 2022. It's a Cranky comic book review show. I'm Taylor. I'm Cranky. Kind of got the plague too, so if I start hacking up a long cough and I might stop the video and restart it. We'll see. Cubicle crud. That's what you get. I work in a cubicle. It's like a soulless maze of human rats, and everyone's sick. We're all coughing and dying. Like humanity. Yay, let's get into this. Worst comics to best, huh? And actually, this is a pretty interesting week. Do I have any DC books or Marvel books in here? Oh, yeah, I have one DC book, no Marvel books. So this will be interesting, I hope. And worst to best, and honestly, the worst isn't even that bad. So, Nightclub, number one, Mark Miller and Juanan Ramirez. Yeah, this is not awful, honestly. It's $1.99, which really helps. It's a cheap ass book, so and it's Mark Miller. He knows how to write a comic, and he wrote a comic. It's not amazing. The concept is this kid gets turned into a vampire. There you go. That's what. Yeah. There's more to it. There's twists and turns. I don't want to wreck it for you, but it's like it feels like a little bit dated idea of high school fame is involved, and it's not really the problem. Maybe not Mark Miller's fault. It feels like he's just writing to what he is probably his audience, and it feels like they're trying to be like a technological generation or two behind as far as what that might entail. Again, not awful. The art I dig. It's kind of sketchy. Kind of reminds me of what's his nuts on Moon Knight. Pretty well paced. Pretty action packed and orient. Capuccio. That's the guy in Moon Knight. Fairly well drawn throughout the whole thing. I don't have a whole lot of complaints to it. It's just mostly a setup. And while it's an interesting enough setup, and that's what Mark Miller does, he has these interesting setups. It's just whether or not this actually goes anywhere, and we'll see. So I don't want to wreck the setup because you might get your own enjoyment out of it. And for $2, I just say honestly, just pick it up because why the hell not? And not necessarily the greatest cover of the week, but it's $2 fucking. So and also I mixed in a few books that are a little bit older in here because the LCS I go to, you probably heard me bitch about them. I've come to Hakuna Matata. That's not the right word. I've come to peace, namaste, love, and kindness and happiness with them. Okay, I'm not. They're still kind of awful in a lot of ways. But what I have done, and I'm going to clean my glasses while I'm telling you this, because I'm a multitasking son of a bitch, people. I'm just going to go there because they're literally across the street, and I just am too damn lazy after working all day on Wednesdays to drive and go get books. Because that's when I get to my new releases. I get them on Wednesday. I immediately come home. I immediately start reading, and then I record this video and get it up by Wednesday night. But that shop tends to miss some books, or they get books in shitty quality, or they just stop ordering things where they don't think anyone's interested in them. So I don't want to do a pull list with them for a variety of reasons. Mostly I'm a commitment phobe, and I don't like the shop that much. But they're right there. So every couple of weeks I'm going to drive across town, go to a different shop, and get books I'm missing. That's kind of the plan for now. We'll see how it works. I think it'll do okay, but it's like a half-hour drive, and again, on Wednesday, it just eats it into too much time for me to do that every week, to go to that other shop, so I'm just going to live with life and go from there. So there's a couple older books in there. That's the whole point of that. Anyways, next we have Grimm number 6 by Stephanie Phillips and Flaviano on the art, and this book took a turn this week, and honestly, it felt like I had this month. It felt like I have a different artist for some of it, too. It's not a bad thing. I think the book needed a turn to stay interesting, but it kind of threw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting it, which is not, again, a bad thing, but I don't know how well it fits. It's kind of the point of view shifted for the most of this book. And I don't know. We'll see where it goes. It's piqued my interest, at least, again. I know a lot of other people love this book and are hugely specking on it and stuff, but I don't buy into the spec bullshit, and I do sometimes, don't get me wrong. But I also don't read for spec. I read to enjoy it. And while I thought Stephanie Phillips was telling a fine enough tale, it was pretty straightforward and pretty linear. And this still is that. It's just there's at least other characters introduced in an element, and it may not be entirely what I guessed, which I hope it's not, because I want to be surprised and stuff. It's still, I don't think, amazing. And honestly, it really does feel like a different artist, but I don't think it is. I think Flaviano worked on all of this. Just feels pretty stylistically different. And I also think has it been 2 months since it came out? It feels like it. So yeah, it's decent, and it's better than the others, but it's still there's some other good books this week. Just yeah, so we're gonna go with that. And geez, I feel like a big gray potato right now. I need it. Did I mention I'm sick? Anyways, next we have Art Brut. Yeah, Das Brut. No, Art Brut by W. Maxwell Prince and Marco Marazzo. Oh my God, Jesus Christ! Sorry, Martin Marazzo. This is a reprint of an earlier book that I think was either it might have been DC Image back in the day, but I almost thought it was Vertigo. I'm pretty sure I read this back in the day. I'm gonna keep saying that because I don't remember when it first came out. But it's not awful. It's a decent story by these guys. When the hell did this? Never mind. I'm too fucking blind to read the indie shit right now. And yeah, it's not as polished as another book later in the list that's also by the same creative team, but it's a funky enough setup. Like a crazy artist, because artists are crazy, wah, 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 and has to solve an art crime or a bunch of art crimes, where like the Mona Lisa is winking, and he has to figure out what's up. There's more to it than that, and it's wackier than even that sounds. And there's like a lot of over the top craziness, like that. I don't want to wreck it for you if you haven't read it. I think it's a fun enough adventure. I just don't think it quite has the poignancy or the like storytelling depth that some of their later works have together. And you'll see when I get to it, or maybe you won't. Maybe I'm just grabbing things like crap today. Who knows? It's a possibility, people. But yeah, there's art crimes. There's the Mona Lisa. There's winking, and they need the Art Brut to solve the crime because his name's Arthur Brut. Art Brut was also an art movement. I can't remember what the hell it was. Because I went to art school, but I have a head cold, and it's been a while. And forgive me, Carl Moll's rolled over in his goddamn grave. He was my art teacher, crazy old bastard. And next we have Specs number 2, David Boer and Chris Sheehan. You know that you see that show Stargirl with a little annoying kid has a pen they can make a wish on, or any wish thing ever. You ever read a book about a wish? That's this. It's not groundbreaking in any way, shape, or form as far as that goes. It's an interesting character dynamic between the two main characters, and I enjoy the art by Chris Sheehan. The story itself, it's not awful, but if you've ever read a book about a wish or anything with wishes, you know they tend to go horribly wrong, right? Well, it wouldn't be much of a story if there's 2 issues in and everything's going right. So there's my spoiler for this one. It's decent. It's better. Like David Boer also wrote. Oh God, words are impossible for me today. Kanto, and I really dislike Kanto because I thought the pacing on it was just garbage, and the story was just kind of meh. This is better. The art does kind of feel nice and kind of grim and gritty. Look, magic sunglasses, spectacles even, or specs as it were. So your mileage may vary on this one. You might love it, you might hate it. I think it's a solid middle ground comic, which is not bad for this week, honestly, because this is a pretty good week for comics. Better than it has been in the past month or so. So next, we have Stillwater number 16. This is one of those ones that came out a little while back, because for whatever the fuck reason, if there's Stillwater 16, 17, 18, the damn series is done. But that guy over there is like, no, I'm not ordering anymore because not enough people buy them. He could just put 1 or 2 on the shelves. I could pre-order them. I get it. But like, I just assumed it'd be there because it's one of the better comics that's come out lately. And it's wrapping up, and it's only going to be an 18-issue run. But apparently he had to make more room for Batman fucking Spawn, which I did not, by the way. So if you're watching this to see where I put Batman Spawn on the list, I threw it in the fucking garbage. I didn't pick it up because I don't have any interest in that book at all. I don't care about Spawn as a character. Batman I read the main titles of, and like I don't think Todd McFarlane can write his way out of a fucking paper bag. So I did not get the book. So there you go. Anyways, side rant, Chip Zdarsky can write, and Ramon Perez, solid on the art, although this fight is a little bit weirdly sketchy even for him in this issue. Russ Wooten, I think, is off his game in this. He's the letterer. And there's like a lot of this lettering is meant to be, I'm not even sure you can see it here, it's like journal taking, and that's hard to pull off, and I get that because it's not going to feel like a journal, but it also like it's just make it more legible than what it is. It's not awful, but it's jarring enough to take me out of the story a little bit with the lettering. It's a minor complaint. This is the history of Stillwater and how it came to be, and while it's a pretty decent history, it's not spectacular. It's not like if you were waiting 16 issues to figure out how Stillwater came to be and what the mystery was, I think you're missing the point of the story. And if this is the point of the story, and this is actually the point Chip's trying to make, I'll be disappointed. But I don't really think that's it. I think like that's kind of like the secondary nature. It's sort of like The Walking Dead. Like the reason the zombies came isn't really the point of the goddamn story. And I don't think the reason Stillwater became Stillwater and people can live forever. Spoilers, 16 issues in, is the point of it. I think it's the ramifications and how people interact, and that's more what Chip is going for. And like, while this is an interesting enough thing, and I'm kind of glad they did explain some of the backstory of the town and like what's going on and sort of the logistics of it, I would rather just get to the main story and wrap up the main arc. I could have probably skipped this issue. Probably actually turns out I did skip it and I had to go find it down. But I don't think missing this issue would be detrimental to the overall story. I don't think it's entirely 100% needed. So, all right, next. Oh boy. Okay, hang on. How many do we have left? We got a couple left. All right. Tom King writes books for DC. Lots of books for DC. And he fucks with continuity, and he writes these 12-issue maxi series, and I get frustrated every fucking time. And I always say, I'm done buying Tom King monthlies. And I probably am. I probably will really eventually get to buying these shit digitally, or just wait for the collection on this one. I think I might just wait for a physical collection. Although, here's the thing. It's an interesting enough setup, and it's on like uncoated kind of newsprint stock. And it feels like a throwback comic in that way. It's Tom King writing. It's Jorge Fornes on the art and Dave Stewart on the coloring. That's the same team that worked on Rorschach, which I liked until I hated. And then, and this is not awful. It's taking a lot of Bronze and Silver Age DC characters and chucking them together in a rompy adventure. And these are not big name characters. And where I do think the book falls apart is like, if you don't know who these characters are, you're not going to get as much enjoyment out of this book. I think he's really kind of leaning a bit too heavily into nostalgia bait, and like it's a weird choice. Like, I get it; these are D-listers, so like nostalgia. Maybe nostalgia bait's a wrong word, but it's more than one word. Taylor, you're a fucking moron. But like we're talking like the Dingbat Gang, which I don't think anyone's ever heard of. I mean, other than like the diehardiest of diehards, the Creeper, the Blue Star Man. Who else? The Swordsman. I don't even know who half of these people are, and like. While it's Metamorpho, and I think I have at least a passing knowledge of Silver Age DC's stuff. But if you don't, like you get the Manhunter in here, you get a lot of characters that get chucked together into this stew of a book. And then you get the Tom King isms. Like, does it get more Tom King-y than that? Just a whole lot of talking heads in a grid. About what it does not, well, maybe it actually does. I was going to say what it doesn't do is go backwards and forwards in time, but it very well could be because nothing's explained in this issue. And like it is a setup of a mystery book. I'm going to go ahead and guess it's 12 issues. I'm not 100% sure. And yeah, I think it's going to be another case that if I were to read this monthly, I would just be very frustrated, and I think I'll read better collected. And so I'm going to hold off on this, and I'll read it collected. If I end up buying more of it, you can call me a liar. I figured I should buy at least one DC or Marvel book this week, and so I got the one. All right, I do look like a lumpy potato. Jesus Christ. Anyways, I've been working out. I've not been working out. I'm sick as a fucking dog. Anyways, next, we have Image Comics. Mattson Tomlin and Lieber Mayho from, not Image, this is Boom, actually. And a big old boy of a book, $10. This is one of the co-writers of the Batman, or he wrote Batman Imposter and was a co-writer of this screenplay for the Batman movie, I think. And Lieber Mayho on the art. I was skeptical, and I am a little still skeptical of Lieber Mayho's ability to do an interior of a comic. I know that's going to make you. Some of you like just be like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Taylor?" But here's the thing: I think he adds so much detail and so much stuff to every panel that it like the foreground and the background sometimes get muddied, and I think that's been a problem with covers forever. And then also like since I'm using photo reference or just really heavily details his cartoon reference. I mean, I would bet money there's photo reference. It falls into the sort of uncanny valley where you sometimes have trouble relating to these characters, and they seem a little stiff and wooden. And there's some of that here. It's not awful. It's better than some of his covers. Like there's definitely moments where you can see some movement, but he does tend to paint. And I'm going to guess it's digital too. I could be wrong on that as well. But it seems like they're all posed and all based off of reference, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a personal taste of mine. I would like my art to be a little more artistic, as it were. It's just kind of like some of this stuff, and Lee is very competent and a better artist than I ever will be. So don't necessarily take that as criticism of his art style. It's just the style itself does not necessarily work for me 100% in interior comics. It just feels a little bit overdone and a little flat. What I really hated is the lettering by Becca Carey. Dear God, there's times where it's like almost illegible, and then she uses this. It's not Helvetica. Maybe it's Helvetica. No, it's not Helvetica. It's a computer typeface for the exposition bits in the background. It's always white, and then it just like it feels like first year graphic design where she's like shifting around like the type a little bit on each line and like just playing with the kerning and the leading and the typeface and the font a little bit because like, oh, things are going crazy, and that's how you do that. And fucking hell, it drove me nuts. The story itself is a time travel story that's pretty interesting and it has some idea of like loss and reason, and you're still a mystery as far as what the fuck's going on. So like the story I dug. The art I did not mind, and the lettering I hated. That's about where we're at. And it was $10. And this is issue number 1, book number 1. I don't know how many there are going to be. This is another one where I'm just holding off, and I'm going to buy the collection when it's all said and done. And I get that artists don't like that all the time because you want to make your money as you get it, but it's $10 fucking dollars. And I think it'll read better collected, and I think it'll be a prettier collection. So, yeah. But yeah, time travel starts in the 50s as a black man in America, which doesn't seem like a super fun place to be. Then jumps forward, then jumps backwards, then jumps all over. It gets a little jarring in the last few pages of the book as far as that goes, but Lee's art style does mix it up. Like, I give credit where it's due. He managed to just like mix up his style almost every page, indicating different time jumps and stuff. It's where he ends up in the end where it feels very Bermejo-ish, and that's the part I honestly didn't like as much. So your mileage may vary, but I think I've said that 4 times today. Fuck. All right. Next we have 10,000 Black Feathers number 4. This is gonna get really blown out in the camera. I can tell it's looking real white. I apologize. This is Jeff Lemire, Andre Sorrentino, and Dave screwed on the colors. It's a wacky, wild Jeff Lemire and Andre Sorrentino kind of horror book. There's a missing person. There's loss. There's a character suspected of doing something they probably didn't do, and there's unseen forces at work. And then there's grim, gritty darkness and atmosphere, and you're starting to peel away at the onion, so you're learning a little bit more of what's going on, but not really, because it's a Lemire book, and it's just a dark horror mystery book. If you came to this issue looking for answers, you're not going to get it. This is another one where you could probably get it collected, and it might do a little bit better. Because they've been keeping on a pretty good schedule with it, but there's also just times where like I feel like I would benefit from going back and reading the whole thing from the start, and this whole Black Orchard mythos that they're doing, this universe, it's a strange thing because it started off with a graphic novel, then they had another thing, and then they had a miniseries, and I think I get what they're doing. They're trying to make money as they go, but I do think maybe it'd be better as it was just a series of graphic novels. That's just me though. I'm not hating it. I'm not hating it by any means. And like, if you like Sorrentino's art and you like Jeff Lemire working together, you're gonna probably like this book because it feels like very much like other stuff they've done. So there you go. All right, next. This is another one that came out a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week, whatever. Alex Paknadal, Casper Weingard, and Hassan Otsani Allah. I'm butchering all this shit. I apologize, but it's All Against All. This is an interesting one. I know I was not even going to pick this up. And I don't think it was at the Graham Cracker the day who should not be named. But then I went across town and I found it. I'm like, you know what? It's interesting enough art that I'll pick it up. And it's interesting enough art that I'm glad I picked it up. It's sketchy, kind of without a whole lot of black overprinting, which is kind of interesting. So like, I don't know the division of labor on this. Because it said created by 2 people, and they're not splitting it. So maybe they work together on the whole thing. But humanity's kind of done, and there's these future robot-y science people that don't have their own bodies, and they've come back to an abandoned Earth to like, find things and experiment, and it goes horribly wrong, as it were. And then there's a reveal at the end that maybe not everything's quite as it seems, and there's danger afoot. And it's got enough twisted turns to it that it keeps me engaged. And I do like the art, and so this one's a personal preference taste to me. This one might bug some people a whole lot more than it did me. Like I dig it when there's non-traditional art. Like I like this art, and that's the thing. Art is subjective, but I enjoy this art more than I do Lee Marejo's stuff. I just take more pleasure from it. So have at it what you will. I don't want to spoil this one either, but like the fact that there's a human on the cover probably means that the Earth they came to was not 100% abandoned. We're just gonna leave it at that. It's an interesting enough issue and an interesting enough mystery that I'm gonna continue on with it for at least one more, assuming I can fucking find it. This was the one that I might have to get collected just because I'm making it real lazy and I hunt on the monthlies across town, and then I'll just buy it in a trade or something. So, yeah, but I dug this one, honestly. We got like 3 left. This is pretty high up there on the list, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Next, this one also came out a couple weeks ago. And the nice thing is I got these over the weekend, and I had the luxury of reading this a couple times. I've not read every issue again, but like I'm glad I read this one more than once because this is Scott Snyder, Hayden Sherman, Rhonda Pattison, and Dark Spaces Wildfire. This is the last issue of this mini. IDW Press. Gorgeous book. Like Hayden Sherman's art is fantastic. Like it just captures the idea of these like women trapped in a wildfire that are fighting wildfires and like the forces of nature they're up against, and there's drama, there's color, there's vibrancy, and you're pretty much never confused as far as what's going on. And it's just a tour de force by the artist. And Scott Snyder, the writing at first read through of this issue, I did not like it. I didn't feel that he did the characters that he created justice. I didn't feel like they acted in a method that they would have, if that makes sense. And fiction's a weird thing, but you set these characters in motion, right? And then like the audience has an expectation as far as how they're going to act, audience or reader or whatever, the consumer of it, because like you've led them down this path and you have established these character motivations if you've done your job well. And so at first read, I think that it didn't feel like they were acting in character with what happened in this issue, and it does wrap up everything in a fairly neat little package and effectively, and it does wrap it up, and I see where he was going with it, but again, the first time around, I didn't buy it. Now, looking back, I think I was wrong. I do think that the characters did act in a way that fit their desires and their motivations, for the most part. I think there's one glaring thing that's a question mark in here, that like if they acted one way, it's probably character, if they acted the other, then it's like, what? But that's kind of left hanging. So I like it. It's not my favorite book of the year, but it's kind of up there. The first, I think it started with the first 3 or 4 issues were really strong, and I think this was a solid landing, but I don't think it was the best ending. I kind of like the arc of the 5 issues, kind of like, if that makes sense. So, but I'm glad I got the chance to read it, and that's the one nice thing about like not doing the Wednesday thing immediately. And I get to get a chance to like sit and think and absorb. And I don't do that in this weekly format because like I read it, it's my first impressions, I get them out there for you lovely human beings that probably won't watch it until Sunday anyway, so I don't know why I'm bothering. But anyways, next we have, and this is the book of the week for me, it's the last one, Ice Cream Man number 33. Remember what I said? Hang on, I'll find it for you. I'll find it. They had it, Art Brut, same creative team. And it just feels like a much more mature, much more solid, comprehensible, like competent pairing of artists in this. Like even the cover, you can sort of tell. And I don't know if this is a new cover or not, but like this just feels like it's more mature and simpler. This feels like an artist with something to prove. Your mileage may vary on that as well. But I think W. Maxwell Prince started off this series as like a pure horror thing, and then Ice Cream Man kind of grew into its own thing, into kind of life of its own, and like he's letting the sort of character drive where the story goes, even though it's an anthology book, and that doesn't maybe necessarily make sense at first. But this issue even touches on that. Like he's like, this is about the nature of the stories he wants to tell versus the stories he's telling, and it's kind of a funny interplay there. Poignant and sad and weird because it's Ice Cream Man, but like I think he's like realizing that like he has to let the story go where it goes instead of trying to force a story. Whereas this is older and it feels like he's forcing a story. Now this is more plot driven than some of these Ice Cream Man books were. Like this is not really a heavily plot driven issue. The plot's there and like it serves its purpose, but the plot is not the point of this book. It's just kind of the duality of like the ways stories can go and stuff. And I love this issue. I think it's one of the stronger ones. And Ice Cream Man's been fantastic since I started reading it. It's one that like I would love it if they like came out with like deluxe hardcover editions of it all when it's all said and done. So I think it'd be a great thing to sit down and like pick up and read a hardbound, and just like read an issue or two of it now and again. It has some horror elements a little bit. It has some like sadness and it has everything you expect. But I think he's also learned that like doing a straight monthly horror book doesn't necessarily interest him, and so that's why I think Ice Cream Man is transformed into this, which may have lost some readers along the way. But I'm down for it. I think it's like allowing this, like I said, allowing the book to be what it wants to be, and allowing the story to turn into what it wants to turn into. I think it's fantastic. I think they're at the top of their game, Maxwell Prince and Morazzo, and I think this is a great book. It's been one of the better ones of the year. It might be my top 5. I keep changing my rules. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a top 5. We'll see. I'm tired, people. I'm sick. I'm going to go drink some tea and, I don't know, not do this. What's it? Yeah, it's the 14th, December 22nd. If you're watching this before then, 8:30 Central Time on my 8 o'clock Central Time on my YouTube channel, gonna have a Secret Santa exchange. So, a bunch of Instagrammers and stuff that I'm in a community with. We're gonna jump on here, go live, and open up Secret Santa boxes. This should be fun. So join us, and don't be a dick, even if even if you got the plague and kind of don't want to be doing this today and just want to nap. Don't be a dick, just nap. Take a dick nap. I don't know what a dick nap is, but go take one. So yeah,